Hey, what's going on? This drunken body partially woke. Tonight we're gonna change gears. It's a dark and stormy night, so I wanted to tell you a little story by candlelight. Take yourself back to New Year's Eve, 1999. The long-awaited new millennium was finally upon us, and although it was a time of great celebration, the night... New Year's Eve, 1999. The long-awaited new millennium was finally upon us, and although it was a time of great celebration, the night was met with much apprehension about the threat of the Y2K bug. And of course, even back then, the United States was on alert from threats of terrorism as well. As the midnight hour passed and nothing catastrophic happens, everyone feels an even greater cause for celebration as we enter a new millennium full of hope for the future. The entire world passes a mile marker of human existence, and all mankind enters a new age. On this New Year's Eve of the dawn of a new millennium, the current U.S. President, Bill Clinton, makes a speech. In this speech, he says things about the future that, looking back now, had a very serious forecast for humanity. Oh, it's windy. He says, "Tonight we celebrate the change of centuries, the dawning of a new millennium. We celebrate the future, imagining an even more remarkable 21st century. So we Americans must not fear change. Instead, let us welcome it, embrace it, and create it. Such a triumph will require great efforts from us all. It will require us to stand against the forces of hatred and bigotry, terror and destruction. It will require us to make further breakthroughs in science and technology, to cure diseases, heal broken bodies, lengthen life, and unlock secrets, from global warming to the black holes in the universe." Although Y2K turned out fine, there was a definite sense of disappointment. The coming of the new millennium seemed anticlimactic. There was no discernible difference between the years 1999 and 2000. As the year passed, this feeling only grew stronger as the presidential election featured arguably two of the most boring candidates in history, George W. Bush and Al Gore. There was some excitement, though, as an extremely close election ended in controversy over who had won. When the dust had settled, the title of Commander-in-Chief went to the second president in the history of the United States with the last name of Bush. Then it was back to business as usual, with the most boring president in history. CBS News reported, "Our CBS News tally shows President George W. Bush made 9 visits to his Texas ranch, spending all or part of 69 days there during his first year of office. Mr. Bush also made 25 visits to Camp David in 2001, totaling 78 days. And he spent a 4-day weekend at his folks' place in Kennebunkport, Maine that year." And even the Comedy Central network has a video segment available online from an August 9th, 2001 Daily Show with Jon Stewart, where the president was interviewed about world events from his Mobile Tactical Command Center, otherwise known as a golf cart. Another video available online shows a clip of the president saying, "I'm working on some initiatives where, you'll see. I mean, there will be some decisions. We will be announcing them as time goes on." Then, on September 11th, 2001, something happened that would change the world forever. That morning, we watched in horror and disbelief as reality resembled the fiction of a big-budget Hollywood disaster film. The nation was in shock. How did this happen? Who flew those planes? What are we going to do? These were the obvious questions which demanded answers, and we didn't have to wait very long for those answers. 19 Muslim extremists had hijacked airliners with box cutters. They targeted major U.S. landmarks to get their message across, which we were told was, "We hate America and its freedom." These men were led by Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind the anti-American radical Islamic group known as Al-Qaeda. Luckily, American troops had already been amassed in and around Afghanistan, the country where bin Laden was hiding in a cave, and as the military went to work in Afghanistan, We the people were asked to make some serious changes at home. The war on terror had begun, and with it came the expectation that certain liberties would have to be sacrificed, in the name of security, of course. We found ourselves living in a post-9/11 world. As the world changed all around us, a fanatical form of patriotism offered condolence to those mourning the loss of the now distant good old days. Boredom was a thing of the past, and changes came faster than they ever had before. While most people were slapping red, white, and blue stickers on their bumpers, the United States government was busy holding a conference concerned with changes so large that they promised to alter human nature itself. 21st century goals were discussed in preparation for what would become to be known as the Age of Transitions. The title Age of Transitions was coined by Newt Gingrich. In his introduction to the National Science Foundation and Department of Commerce sponsored workshop titled Converging Technologies for Improving Human Performance on NBIC, which stands for Nano, Bio, Info, and Cogno Technologies, the workshop featured a wide range of participants from governmental and private institutions such as NASA, the Department of Defense, MIT, Carnegie Mellon University, University of California, Berkeley, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, otherwise known as DARPA, Hewlett-Packard, Stanford University, and many more. It was a chance for experts in the field of nanoscale, biology, information, and cognitive technologies to discuss their visions for the future alongside government officials. The goals discussed for the future were nothing less than Promethean, with the key goals stated as converging technologies focused on enhancing human performance, which in turn would lead to a more efficient societal structure. Indeed, technological convergence was given as the answer to all of the world's now infamous global problems. It promised to bring upon a new renaissance of human development. It was the hope of integrating humanity with nature to save the earth. Visions laid out included robotics, cybernetics, artificial intelligence, life extension, brain enhancement, virtual reality, genetic engineering, and even teleportation. Enhancing human performance would require merging human biology with technology. Brain-machine interfaces, or BMIs, would allow the control of machinery with the brain itself. Implantable brain chips would also be able to store information and enhance cognitive function. The ultimate human-machine symbiosis could be to download a copy of a person's brain into a supercomputer. This would allow someone to effectively live forever within a computer-generated virtual simulation. More subtle concepts, such as virtual reality in classrooms, were also discussed. And of course, the military implications of convergence were quite obvious. As cybernetic enhancement of human performance is inevitable, achieving these visions requires the decoding and understanding of complex systems, the most important complex system being the human brain. After all, it is the driving force behind human performance. Through the use of bioinformatics, functions of the brain could be understood. Bioinformatics is the process of collecting data from a biological system in order to understand how that system works. The next step in the process would involve biomimetics, or mimicking of those same biological systems. Using this process could enable the development of artificial intelligence. A stated military goal for artificial intelligence is the creation of uninhabited combat vehicles. Removing the pilot would result in a more combat-agile aircraft, they say. These machines would also have the ability to maintain themselves. The use of new materials created with nanotech would enable lighter, stronger, high-tech solutions. Of course, the super soldier was also mentioned at this conference. All sorts of new techniques, from pharmaceuticals to robotic exoskeletons, could make this vision come true. It's important to realize that this report clearly states that the cybernetic enhancement of human performance is inevitable. Inevitably, the cybernetic enhancement of human performance is sneaking up on society, with Newt Gingrich proclaiming, "Those countries that ignore these patterns of change will fall further behind and find themselves weaker, poorer, and more vulnerable than their wiser, more change-oriented neighbors." Mr. Gingrich conservatively calls for a tripling of the National Science Foundation's budget. He also mentions George Bush's approval of the $604 million increase towards the nano budget. Convergence is the priority area of importance in implementing the great promise of a new day for the 21st century. One group stands above all others in applauding this funding for convergence. They are known as the World Transhumanist Association, the WTA, or transhumanists, most prominent among which are professors, philosophers, scientists, and celebrities. The transhumanists see a world of problems just begging to be solved with converging technology. WTA co-founder Nick Bostrom states, "Sometimes we don't see a problem because either it's too familiar or it's too big. The first is death. Death is a big problem. If you look at the statistics, the odds are not very favorable for us. So far, most people who have lived have also died. Existential risk, the second big problem. Existential risk is a threat to human survival or to the long-term potential of our species. The third big problem is that life isn't usually as wonderful as it could be. I think that's a big, big problem. There are just those moments that I've experienced where life was fantastic and you wonder, why can't it be like that all the time? Suppose we fix these things." The singularity. The transhumanist golden age will kick off an event known as the singularity. The singularity will occur at the point in which artificial intelligence surpasses the capabilities of the human brain. Speaking of our current concept and state of robotic technology, is this really the best we can dream of? Is this the best we can do? Or is it possible to find something a little more inspiring? If we want to achieve this, what in the world would have to change? And this is the answer. We would have to change. Not just the world around us, but we ourselves. Not just the way we think about the world, but the way we are. Our very biology. Human nature would have to change. So we could think of adding on different new sensory capabilities and mental faculties, says Professor Nick Bostrom. I honestly wonder what he truly meant when he said that. Our very biology would have to change. That in itself is a frightening concept in my opinion. When you go out to the late 2020s, almost everybody will have some amount of non-biological intelligence inside their brains. It is going to happen in this very gradual way, by introducing non-biological intelligence that gradually becomes more and more sophisticated with new versions. You get to the 2040s and the non-biological, the machine portion of our intelligence is going to be vastly more powerful than the biological portion. The biological intelligence will be trivial at that point, and ultimately that is where the action is, says inventor and author Ray Kurzweil. My personal view is that we are the information, the processing going on in our minds, which means that an uploaded mind would be the same person. A computer copy of me would be me, says Andrew Sandberg, PhD. And I say, you're right. These guys are... Professor Hugo de Guerra says there will be cyborgs. I see that as inevitable, but I don't think it's going to solve our problem. It will just make it worse, because imagine that your neighbor starts going cyborgy, starts adding components, and suddenly your next door neighbor is capable of learning a human language in seconds. Then you would get a real split in human capacities, because these cyborgs are no longer human, in effect. They're sort of a superhuman. Dr. Michio Kaku says, now for the first time in human history, in the information revolution, we can begin to become masters of intelligence. This mastery will offer us unparalleled freedom and opportunities. It has the potential to enrich our lives more than anything we've seen before. Professor Kevin Warwick says, all revolutions have winners and losers. This revolution is no exception, but I would say the big losers are the people who say they don't want to get involved. They are going to discover that being a little bit out of touch will have some unpleasant consequences. They're going to get a lot of people who do want to upgrade themselves. There's no question about that. And there will be commercial interests and political interests supporting those groups. There's a lot of money to be made here and a lot of power. Not just in a military sense, but in an everyday sense, in terms of who gets jobs and who doesn't. That brings us to the post-human. From cyborgs with very long lifespans to downloading consciousness itself into a machine, transhumanists say it is impossible to predict exactly exactly what a post-human will be. But it will indeed be better than human. Such lofty promises are understandably being embraced by many people in search of a better world for everyone. So-called techno-progressives, which wish to see this technology developed, but also want to make sure that it is equitably distributed throughout all strata of society. Techno-progressives are rivaled by various people, including bioconservatives. Bioconservatives are those people opposed to the creation of post-humans. Surprisingly, also by experts within the fields of convergence itself. Marvin Minsky, the originator of artificial neural networks and co-founder of the Artificial Intelligence Lab at MIT, has said, "Ordinary citizens wouldn't know what to do with eternal life. The masses don't have any clear-cut goals or purpose. No matter how you look at it, the singularity is being promised as the great solution to our 21st century global problems. Thanks to such early work as the Human Genome Project, we will be able to decode DNA itself. Through the use of applied genetics, science will be able to improve the human race." What most people don't realize is that this concept is not new. It is in fact a repackaging of what was once called eugenics, which is what tomorrow's video is going to be about. I hope you enjoyed this video. This chapter was chapter 1 from my book called The Rebirth of Mankind, No Homo, Homo Evolutus. And this book has the most illustrations out of any book I've written. I don't know, I guess you couldn't see too much there, but hope you enjoyed that chapter I read to you, and look forward to tomorrow's premiere, which will be about eugenics. All right, peace and love to all of you guys. Man, see, I can't do a law video every day, so there are other subjects we can talk about that are just as interesting, in my opinion. Okay, you guys, may the rest of your day be blessed. I gotta go. I gotta see about that fire in the background. Peace.